Hello, and welcome to our program, Where God Weeps, a program where we speak about the situation of the suffering church around the world. Today we're going to be speaking about one of Africa's heavyweights, one of the continent's most populous and economically developed nations, the country of Nigeria. The country is divided roughly between the Christians in the south and the Muslims in the north. Father Emmanuel Saliu serves in the Niger State, a traditionally Islamic corner of Nigeria, and one of the 12 states in which Islamic Sharia law has been decreed. Father Emmanuel Saliu's childhood is a reflection of this larger mix of cultures in this part of the world. To tell us more about the Catholic Church in this part of Nigeria, it is my pleasure to welcome Father Emmanuel Saliu. Father Isa, thank you for being with us here today on our program.
Thank you, Mark, for having me. I'm really very happy and pleased to be here.
Father Isa, your name is Father Emmanuel Saliu.
That's right.
Isa is a Muslim name, Emmanuel a Christian name.
Correct.
Can you tell us how this composition of your family name, your name, came together?
Yes, indeed, the composition of my names reflects the background from which I come. I was first named Isa by my family as a Muslim name. And Isa for the Muslims is Jesus in the Quran, the Prophet Jesus. Then later in life, when I was to be baptized a Catholic, the priest said, well, you are already Isa, Jesus, so Emmanuel, you will be baptized Emmanuel. So that's how it happened. So I'm now Emmanuel, I'm Isa as well.
Your father converted to Islam when you were about 5 years old. Can you give us an understanding, because he converted from traditional African religion to Islam. Can you give us a little bit of an idea of what is traditional African religion? What do we understand by this?
Well, first let's say what traditional African religion is not. Traditional African religion is not identical with witchcraft or black magic. Traditional African religion is a whole system of belief and practices, let's put it that way. Belief, first of all, in a supreme being who is not easily accessible to the human beings, and therefore he is worshipped through various other physical objects like the snake or the stone or the river. And so you have the god of the sun, of the moon, or the god of the rain and fertility and so on and so forth. So Africans, traditional African religion, worship the supreme god through the medium of the physical things that they can see. Also within this type of religion is the cult of ancestors, that we believe the ancestors who have passed away are still very much part of the living, and they can influence the way things go in the way. So this is more or less, in a simplistic way, what traditional religion is. And that's where my father converted from that to Islam when I was 5, as you said. And
And just to give an understanding of where we are locating ourselves, because your area where you are living, where you grew up, is a border area between the Muslim, let's say the Muslim north, and the more Christian south of Nigeria. Whereabouts are you living, and what was the context of your growing up?
Okay, so I am from the state of Niger, in Nigeria, the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And Niger State is one of the 12 states in which Sharia law has been implemented since the year 2000. And so I am living, so to say, within a Muslim or Islamic State, a geographical location of the country, Niger State. And I was born there, I was raised there in Kontagora, precisely from Niger State I am. I'm from the vicariate of Kontagora.
I want to come to the question of Sharia and also your own growth in faith towards the Catholic Church. But I want to ask you a personal question, if I might. I see on the side of your face you have scarring. Is this something to do with traditional African religion? Is this something to do with a rite of passage? Can you give us a little bit of an understanding of the scarring that you have on the side of your face?
Okay, this has nothing to do with traditional religion or even rite of passage in my case. It's basically a tribal identity. I am from the Kambari tribe, and every child with the Kambari people, every child gets these marks at the age of about 4. And it's like a kind of a age group thing when all children who are of that age group are taken out and they are given this tribal identity.
What happens? You go to the forest, or how does it occur?
Yeah, so the children of the same age group at a certain time of the year are taken out of the village to a bush not too far away, where there is the traditional person who does this. It's usually a particular person who does it. In my case, it was a woman who did it. Men also do it as well. So that's a kind of a special time. It's a celebrative event. They celebrate it.
Is it still continuing or is it dying out?
No, it's no longer continuing. It has died out, or it's almost dying out, let's say, because of the arrival of Christianity and Islam. These two religions do not encourage tribal markings like this. In my family, for instance, I was the last to have these marks. My younger brother, my younger sister, they don't have them, because by this time my father had converted to Islam, and of course he stopped all this.
That was the end of it.
That was the end of it.
Father, you were the last of 7 children. All your other siblings, your brothers and your sister, are Muslim, but you were Catholic, you were Christian. How did it come about that you, of all the family, went on a path of Christianity?
Well, let's say, first of all, by the grace of God. But let me quickly add that it is by the fact that I went to school. Of all my siblings, the children of my father, I am the only one who went to school. None of them went to school at all.
May I ask why?
Because with the Kambari people, education, formal education, was not at all part of what they believe in, part of the culture. What the Kambari person back then believed in was to have many children, to marry several wives, and then start your family. Farming is the main occupation. So not education. Education was not, nobody sent their children to school.
But you were the exception.
Yes, I was an exception.
Why?
That's why.
What was it that your father saw in you that he said, okay, this one can go to school?
Again, I think you have to see providence at work in this, because again, even today, in retrospect, I ask myself, how did it happen? Why did my father allow, first of all, he being a Muslim, sending me to a Christian school, a Catholic school? That was really, and my father actually was persecuted on account of me.
Persecuted in what sense? In the village, or?
Yeah, in the village, like his Muslim friends gossiped about him, and they were carrying his name about, oh, he sent his child to the kuffar, the pagans, the unbelievers, and I'm urging him to pull me out. And you know what? My father, instead of asking me out of school, he got angry and said, well, this is my son. I do with him what I want. I mean, you can't tell me what to do with my son. And he left me. He just allowed me to continue.
When, if I might ask, in this process, did you have a sense of your own vocation? When was it that you suddenly thought, there's something more I want?
Yeah, having gone through primary school in the village, I was given scholarship to go to a Catholic secondary school, boarding school. And there I met on the staff of the school, the teaching brothers of the Christian schools. They were teaching in that school. And really, they were, for me, the best example of teachers. They were so dedicated to teaching. They were really models for me, amongst other lay teachers even. So they began to really attract my attention. And it's from there that I began to think about, what do I do after school?
Was there one moment where you thought either or?
I think that, yes, there was, but not really for a very long time. As soon as I finished secondary school, I pretty much made up my mind that I was going to religious life and serve God.
Your Muslim siblings came to your ordination.
They did.
How was it for them and how was it for you? Did they understand? How did they understand this concept of your ordination to the priesthood?
My sisters and my brother, they were all there dressed up in hijab, my sisters, all of them as Muslims and so on, very happy. I have to tell you that for us Africans and Cambari person, any celebration is a celebration. We like celebration. So whether they understood what was happening or not, they wanted to come to, they were happy that, not just because it's me, their own sibling, but that, it's a celebration where the whole village was gathering. And this was happening in the village where I grew up, primary school. I was baptized where my whole life started. So Muslims came, those who knew me growing up, they all came to my sisters and my brother, they don't, till date, understand the depth, truly what it means to be a priest, but they accept me as I am because they come to visit me. Over the 13 years I've been a priest, they come to the parish and they call me Father Isa and so on. So
it's natural.
Yeah.
Father, one thing is the living together. The other thing, as you mentioned already, is that Niger State, where you are, is one of 12 in which Sharia law has been imposed. I think for many of us, we don't understand what it means precisely to live under Sharia law. Can you give us perhaps a little bit of what it means daily life to live under Sharia law as a Christian especially?
Well, a little background. Sharia law came into the country as a whole beginning from the year 2000, and it began in the state of Zamfara, which is a neighboring state to Niger State. And since then, 11 other states joined in, so making 12 altogether, including my state of Niger. Now, at the beginning, when Christians began to, question this and query about this, we were told that Sharia law would concern only the Muslims. Christians would not be affected. That was the beginning.
A quick step backwards.
Yeah.
What is Sharia law, just to give us a context of what we're talking about?
Sharia law is, to put it in a simple way, is the law that comes from the doctrines of Islam. And there are laws that are taken from, if you like, the holy book of the religion of Islam, the Quran, and they affect the whole life of the Muslim. Every aspect of the Muslim life is kind of, there's a law guiding it under the Sharia. So it's an Islamic law that guides the entire life.
Social, political, economic.
Everything.
All aspects of life.
Even personal life.
Even personal
life, yes.
Now, you mentioned that when the law was introduced, you had said that it was intended originally only for the Muslims.
So we were told. But within a year or so, Christians began to see that, well, it's really not possible to when you have people living together. In certain families, you have Muslims and Christians within the same family, like in my own case, and there are many others like me, where you have children of the same parents. Some are Christians, some are Muslims. So how do you, on a day-to-day basis, make laws and say, okay, this is for Christians? It's not possible. So very quickly, Christians began to realize that, well, Sharia law is really affecting us. It was affecting us in every way. How do we build churches? Sharia law has a way in which it doesn't make it easy for us to build churches. It doesn't make it easy for us to worship the way we would want to worship, because we are restricted. Even in certain places, very many towns, when Sharia came in, churches were relocated to outside the town. They were given a certain parcel of land outside in a particular area and say, okay, you might relocate to this area, but they were not allowed within.
So the public worship was then restricted more and more to a private worship? To
a private worship, in the case of Christians.
What would be practical examples of daily life under Sharia?
Yeah, there is, of course, if anybody with a little bit of knowledge of how Sharia works, you know that separation, even not only in public spaces, that women are expected to be, apart from men, and but also even in schools, you see separation of, some want only girls to be, no co-ed schools anymore, and so on. That's what they wanted. And a lot of those Sharia bits were introduced that were not there before with us.
For example, if I'm correct, a woman is not allowed to leave the house without the accompaniment of a man, whether it be her brother or whether it be. So it's very heavy, actually, the imposition of the laws, particularly in these areas of life.
Very heavy. My sisters, who are all Muslims, go through this. I mean, when they have to go out, they have to be accompanied by either one of their own sons or a relation of the husband, and so on and so forth. And even myself, I remember once visiting my sister Aisha, one of my sisters, and I was not allowed to go into the house where they were living. Okay, they were living in a house, a rented compound at the time. There were other Muslim women. As a man, I wasn't allowed. I had to stay outside, and she would come to meet me there because I couldn't go into that compound. And that's my sister, where my sister lived.
Yes. Father, Christians in the Vicariate of Kontagora, where you are, number about 25,000. A lot of them are, if I understand correctly, Igbo traders that have come up from the south and are living in the Vicariate of Kontagora. Despite the Sharia, is the Catholic faith growing within the Vicariate, within Niger State? How is the situation for Catholics in the Niger State today?
In the Vicariate of Kontagora, if we approximate the number of Christians to be 25, of that 25,000, the Igbos that you are talking about, who are traders from the east of the country, are just a little minority. And you find them really in the towns where they have opportunity to carry out their trading business. But they are a very significant minority as far as the church is concerned, because they come with the faith. They already have been evangelized many years back. And so when they come, they help our own people to grow. Now, the Vicariate of Kontagora, for instance, we call it an area of primary evangelization. Why? Because there is still a lot, so many people who have not heard the gospel. They are neither Muslims nor Christians. They are still in traditional religion. Some are just waiting to be. So like Jesus would say, the harvest is plentiful, and just waiting for the laborers. So there is still plenty of opportunities to spread the gospel.
Father, the harvest is still great. How do you evangelize in this context, in a context of Sharia law, where precisely religion for the Christians is to become a private issue? How do you evangelize? How do you reach out?
The work of evangelization for the church in Nigeria as a whole, but I look at Kontagora in particular, has a lot of areas we can work on. Government is doing a lot, as much as possible, but government is doing things in the cities, not in the hinterland, not in the rural areas. So in the area of, say, health and education and social development, the church is complementing the government, in fact doing probably, as far as the rural areas are concerned, more than the government is doing. Because we have, in the area of education, we provide schools. In my own particular area where I grew up, about 5 kilometers from where I was born, the Catholic Church has the best, I'm not saying one of the best, I'm saying the best primary, secondary school in that area. It is the best, everybody knows that. We also provide, in terms of education, leadership training program. We provide literacy, because this is a huge area. I told you earlier how my own people, the Kambaris, for instance, and other little tribes, education was not a priority. So the church has seen that we need to educate the young people. So we bring in literacy program. Every year we have a particular time of the year when we bring young people, boys and girls, for about 6 weeks, and we teach them to read and write. And so many now begin themselves, they can read the Bible, they can read the stories of the Bible in the church, they go back to the village, and they are leaders. So leadership training.
So they become catechists?
They become catechists, and they help us where we probably they don't see us often. They are there for us. Health. The church provides dispensaries and clinics in rural areas where government is unable to provide anything for the people. So there is that. Then social development. Again, a lot is being done in this area because government does not provide water, for instance, potable water. The church is able to provide potable water by digging sinking wells in villages, and here we do it for everybody. We don't say, is this a Christian village or what? No, it's who drinks water. Anybody who drinks water, we organize the people, we bring a team, and they sink a well, and everybody gets.
So practically through the social services. You evangelize.
Of course, we are not neglecting the actual spiritual side, which is preaching the gospel, but we believe that the human person is body and soul, so we take care of the body as well. So there is the preaching of the gospel. We teach the people the good news, but we also make sure that there are other needs, human needs, are also met.
And this also, I suppose, facilitates the living together.
It does a lot.
Between the Muslims and the Christians.
It does.
Because, as you say, you don't distinguish. Well serves the community.
Yep, we don't distinguish. Not even the team that we set up to carry out this activity of digging wells, we ensure that there's no discrimination. If you are a Muslim and you agree, we train you, you can be part of this team. And so you work with the team. It's not just for Christians or for Catholics for that matter.
Father, we've heard now a little bit about the social services, about all the wonderful work that the Catholic Church is doing in a very, very difficult situation. How can we help? How can the people who are with us today in our program, through their prayers or other ways, how can we help you?
Well, first of all, when I first heard about this program, Where God Weeps, it struck me that when I think about Kontagora and Nigeria, Christians in Nigeria, you can say, okay, that's where God weeps. So the help that already is being given us is very, very, very much appreciated. Myself, for instance, I'm a beneficiary for the fact that I'm a student at the moment at the Pontifical Institute for Arabic and Islamic Studies, and my being there has been through the financial support of the organization of aid to the church in need. So that is a lot, because through me, for instance, I mean, that organization is helping so many students here in Rome and elsewhere, and doing programs also of building the church elsewhere. Through us, more people can be reached, and therefore I encourage our viewers to continue to pray for us who live under a certain state of affairs in Nigeria, to pray for us and to continue to support us in whatever way possible, so that we can carry on the work that we see as necessary for the spread of the kingdom of God.
And if we were to identify, would the priority be support to catechists? Would it be building churches? Would it be support to religious sisters? If you were to wait in your Kontagora vicariate or in Niger State, where would you wait? Where would you say, there, we really need pastoral support here or there?
Well, according to priority, for me, priority would be to support human development, to develop the human resources. And so we are looking at, training the priests, the sisters, the catechists, so that when you have the human resources, surely the church is first of all human beings before its building. So, and then therefore,
and all the rest will spring from that.
Spring from there, I believe.
Father Isa, thank you for having been with us today on our program.
Thank you so much. It has been my pleasure. Thank you.
And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for having been with us today in our program. And if you'd like to know more about the situation of the Catholic Church in the state of Niger in Nigeria, or perhaps how you might be able to help through your prayers or concrete action, I would encourage you to look at the contact information at the end of this program. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Take care.